Welcome to PVA Blood. I'm going to show you a fast, easy way to make marble effects for your terrain and miniatures, regardless of what faction you collect.
Recon Trooper Deimos to command. I found it, the relic of the Emperor's holy angels. It is beautiful, my lords. Requesting immediate reinforcements to my position. Enemy scouts have spotted us and seek to deny us our holy duty. We cannot let it remain in their hands. The Emperor protects.
Whether you're trying to make marble that would look at home within the Imperial Palace on Holy Terra, the inside of a floating battle barge in the depth of space, or perhaps just a checkerboard pattern on a post-apocalyptic 1950s-esque diner, one method will cover you. Easy. This isn't the actual recipe for the marble here. This is just how I made the Maltese cross for the Black Templars. Just get a cheap Halloween skull, cut off the face, and trace a circle that's going to be larger than the skull itself, because you're going to be wanting to draw the skull inside that. And then I'm just using a skewer here to trace things out and measure the cross. Again, making sure that it's going to fit inside that circle. And then cutting out the skull section here so I can hot glue that inside. There you go. Trace the outer circle, again, just with a blade or a skewer. Once the skull is all together, you can then go ahead and trace in a checkerboard pattern, if that's what you want to go with for your marble. Easy. Prime it grey, and then on to painting. Okay, so now you want to, on alternating squares, paint a bunch of squiggles. Gold and silver is what I used, but you can use any metallic paint that you want, so no reason you can't have like a ruby color or something. But when all those squiggles are dry, apply a clear gloss varnish. Okay, so when that gloss is dry, you're going to need either some dried out wet wipes, or in this case, some dryer sheets, and either a white or a cream spray paint. You're going to be applying this over those sheets at about a middle distance. If you get too close or you go too long, you might spray through and pull some of the paint. Just wipe off any excess and keep going. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes. It's better to make those mistakes and keep going than give up and never get anywhere. Keep going. Black Templars, so therefore black paint. This is the absolute cheapest black paint I could get from a shop that's really called Cheap as Chips. I think it was like $2 for the tube, and it's going to work perfectly. Just add a little bit of water and apply that black to the alternating squares. You can swap this out with whatever color you want to fit whatever faction or narrative you're trying to portray with this piece. Carving those lines in really helps keep a straight line here, because if you just use pencils, it's quite easy to go over it, whereas with an actual gap there, it's easy to keep a nice straight line between those pieces. When that's dried, varnish it, and you're ready for the next step. When your gloss layer is dry, grab the cheapest white paint I've got, again from that Cheap as Chip shop, and some sponge, actually cannibalized from an abandoned chair on the side of the road. You don't need fancy materials to make cool things. I'm just putting a dab of white paint down, and now I'm smudging it around these secondary color squares. I'm not trying to fully cover it. In fact, if you end up with a bit of patchiness on there, really uneven, sort of messy, you're using a sponge here, you're going for messiness, unevenness, because you're creating the illusion of depth and white marble permeating through black stone. When you're happy, you've got a bit of foggy unevenness going on with those tiles, apply another layer of gloss. On top of those black zones, we're going to be adding some more squiggles and lines, this time as thin as you can really, or at least as thin as you can be bothered, in that same color that you actually smudged on there. So because I use white paint, I'm going to use white paint. I'm also going to keep a wet, clean brush here that I can use just to wipe off some of the excess if I thought the lines were too thick, didn't like how they were sitting, or I just wanted to feather them a bit. grab yourself some brown wash. Agrax Earthshade will work quite nicely, or you can mix your own using brown ink, water, and acrylic painting medium, which is what I did. Or you can also just mix 1 part acrylic brown paint to 9 parts water and use that. I'm just doing some wiggly squiggly lines, just sort of following the darker areas there on the white squares. You can see that I applied a lot of wash for those lines so that they're pooled. I'm not actually trying to paint them brown, just more stain the areas. Whilst everything's still wet, I'm going to follow it up with a thick, liberal, generous layer of that same brown wash. Get a nice even cover, and for a larger project like this, I would suggest following it up with a sponge, just to help make sure everything is nice and smooth. But really, if you want a darker effect, don't worry about the sponge. I'm also going to use a tissue just to mop up the excess that's pooling, unless you want it to pool, like for grime reasons. But I'm not going for grime, I'm going for stained stone. So I'm just mopping it up using a tissue. Clean up those eye sockets. When you're happy with the finish, let it dry, and then apply your final layer of gloss. And you're done. I followed the same process to make this Blood Angel terrain as I did the Black Templars, except obviously used red paint instead of black. If you know anything about the Blood Angel Space Marine chapter, is that they, no great surprise here, use human blood in their rituals. So I thought it would be cool if instead of using a brown wash, I used my blood recipe to anoint this terrain. Maybe this was a ritual gone horribly wrong. Maybe this is a successor chapter that's particularly bloodthirsty. Who knows? It's a good motivation for a game, perhaps. Now, I've got my own blood recipe, which I should have linked on here if you'd like to make your own. Cheap bulk blood. If I've done things right, you will now know how to make marble, which will fit any possible hobbying scenario you can imagine. As long as you follow the general order of prime, squiggles, gloss, spray and wash, you're gonna end up with an exotic looking polished stone. You can even see that the gloss finish on the Ultramarines and the Black Templar sections look dry, whilst the Blood Angels look wet. They're all fully dry, but that blood recipe does create a really gory finish. As you may have guessed, all these terrain pieces are in fact part of a larger project. So you're going to be seeing some more of that on the channel. And yeah, that's it, you're done. The rest of this video is just me experimenting, creating a different sort of polished stone effect, something a bit more worn. So if you want to check that out, feel free to hang around. But if you're done, thanks for watching. Don't forget, I have an Instagram if you'd like to get sneak peeks of my upcoming projects and dog photos. And yeah, if you could subscribe, let a friend know. Maybe you guys could work together on a project, create a gaming table. 2021 should be fun. Just thanks for watching.